Hi, it's Mike, Founder TV, and today we're replacing these doors with some bypass doors. All right, so first step in the process is actually to get rid of these doors. Super simple. All we need to do is loosen that screw, pull the doors towards us, and pull them off. And then we're gonna get rid of this track. So you can see we got some screws in here. So now let's talk about what we need for this project, okay? So we need a sliding door, bypass door, whatever, sliding door kit, okay? You can buy them Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, all these places have them. You get them even on Amazon. This is the one I got from Home Depot. So whatever your opening is, you need to buy that kit. In my case, it's 72 inches. Then you need obviously 2 doors. All I did was buy 2 slab doors, 36-inch wide stock doors, okay? I got solid core doors, okay? But you could use hollow core doors, solid core doors, wood doors, whatever kind of doors you want. They just need to be the right width, okay? Now, most doors these days are 1 3/8 thick doors, but they do make thinner doors, okay? So you have to pay attention to that. Make sure that the kit you buy is compatible with the door width that you buy. Most are cross compatible. So for example, this one will work on 1 3/8 and 3/4 inch door. So this is a 72-inch wide opening, which is actually 1 inch too wide for a 72-inch bypass door. Because if you left it at 72 inches, obviously the doors would just line up and there would be you'd be able to see between the middle. You actually need them to bypass and sort of cover up each other, okay, in the middle. So you need to make this opening a little bit smaller. So to make my opening small, I'm just gonna use this 3/4 inch material. I could use 1/2 inch material, but I'm just gonna use this, I have it on hand, okay? So no big deal. We're gonna take this, we're gonna tack it right onto the edge, okay, with a finish nail. All right, so now with those 2 pieces installed, our opening is 71 or less. All right, so now let's move on to the next step. So this is the header, okay? These are with the rails. This is what the wheels run in, okay? This is the outside. You can tell because this would obviously not make sense because you see the rail. This is the outside. You can see where all the screws go, and this is how it gets installed. But now what we need to determine is where to install it based on this finish right here, okay? We gotta read some instructions. So if we look at the instructions, if the doors are 3/4 of an inch thick, you need to install this header flush with this, okay? If they're 1 3/8, like in my case, you need to install this header 7/8 in. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna measure 7/8 on both sides, make a mark, and that's where we're gonna install our header. We're gonna hold it up in place. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is actually install the rollers onto the door, okay? These get attached to the back side of the door. So this is the back side of the door, all right? And the one thing you wanna pay attention to is you wanna do them in pairs. So these both have a number 1 on them. The other door will have a number 2, okay? That'll come in play later. These need to be installed 2.5 inches from the edge, okay? So what I'm gonna do is put it on here, hold it 2.5 inches. Then we're gonna use a 3/32 drill bit, drill a tiny pilot hole in here and attach them using the supplied screws. Now has the rollers installed, we're gonna move on to the other door. It's the same process, rinse, repeat. So the doors need to be 1 3/4 inch shorter than whatever the opening is, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna measure on this side and we're gonna measure on this side. Whatever the shorter distance is, we're gonna take 1 3/4 off of that, okay? So I just so happen to know that this one is 81. That one's 81 1/4, okay? So I'm not gonna use a taller one, I'm gonna use a shorter one. So we're gonna take 81, which is the height, the shorter height. We're gonna take 1 3/4 off. That leaves us with 79 1/4, okay? Okay, so to cut this door, it's 79 1/4. I laid this door down outside. I put blue tape on the bottom of the door because that's the side we're gonna cut. We're gonna cut from the bottom. And I measured from the top down 79 1/4. Okay, I made my 2 marks on my tape. Then I used a straight edge to create a straight line. The blue tape allows me to see the line better. It also keeps the door from possibly blowing out while we're cutting it, okay? Once I had my line, I then used my circular saw to make a nice crisp. All right, so I've got the doors in here. We're gonna install them. So to install them, you kind of just lean them back. So I'll kind of show you. So we're gonna lean it. You basically lean it back, hook the wheels into the track, And there we go. So you want to hang the inside one first. And then this is the outside one. All right. Whew. That looks pretty good.
And then you can put the handles on it.
We gotta put the handles on, yeah.
I need my shoes.
You can even do the header.
All right, now that the doors are hung, we're gonna case the door. All right, so the first thing I do is I determine the height. And again, this is gonna be custom to whatever you want. I'm gonna have mine pretty much halfway between here and here. So I set this piece here temporarily, set this piece temporarily, okay? They are level, all right? Then I measure, okay? That gives me 77 and a half. All right, 77 and a half on here. They're gonna be inlaid about a quarter of an inch, okay? So it's flush right now, but there's gonna be a quarter inch lay-in. So we need to include the quarter inch lay-in. So quarter inch there, that's a half inch. So I'll write on here plus a half inch. So that gets me 78, all right? So the overhang, you can see, what I do is I just use the trim, and that is my overhang, okay? It's 3/4, okay? So we're gonna do a 3/4 inch overhang. So 3/4 and 3/4 is 1.5. All right, so we'll add that. So plus 1.5, 79.5. Okay, so that's the bottom measurement that we have to cut to. So now we got to saw, cut this thing at 79.5. All right, so now we're gonna center the header in the opening. We know the height is okay because we set that based on these pieces of wood. So what we did is we made a mark on the center of this and a center of the inside opening, line those two up. Now we can tack this in place. So our next step here is to install our plank block. So we're gonna make sure that this face here is flush with this right here, okay? That's the way it's designed. And we're gonna make sure it's level as well. All right, doesn't have to be perfect. So next step will actually just be to cut this to go between the plank block and the header. So we're at 73 and... All right. So now let's get centered down here. And we take out our spacer. This is our 1/4 inch spacer. We're gonna make some kind of micro adjustments here. So if we actually run this piece level, you can see it's kind of thin up here and thin at the bottom, but then it's got like this little fat piece here. It means the wall is a little bowed out in the center. So what I'm gonna do is tack it in at the bottom, so we have the right spacing, tack it into top. The other thing we have, another problem we have, the wall sticks out in the corner. So the wall's like, kind of like this, right? If we look at that, if we were to just tack that in, see how that, it's smaller there and bigger there, it's going on an angle, right? So we don't want that. This is not usually a ton that you have to adjust it, but it's just enough, all right? And then we're gonna push on it and you're gonna see it is level now, right? So now we got that taken care of. Now let's get rid of this bow. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of, you can move it a little bit, you can't move it a ton. I'm just gonna kind of force it in, right in the center. All right, just do a little bow to match so it looks good. And this seam we're gonna caulk so you won't even see this. All right, so next day, it's time to finish up these doors. So we're gonna finish up with the hardware, okay? So we're using these kind of fancy handles. These actually match the ones we put in our kitchen. I'm gonna use this jig. First thing I do is I center this thing up. So if we look here, I actually attach it so that I don't have to, there's no guessing here, right? And then I just make sure that it's on the same number on both sides. And now I know it's centered, okay? So now we can take this and we can move it to the door. Okay, so there's a few measurements that we need to know, right? First, we need to know, where are we installing this? How are we installing it? All right, so now we need to figure out our centers. So we need to figure out the center here, and we also need to figure out the center here, okay? So that we can set this up correct. First thing we do to figure that out is we go here and we measure 5 3/4. So we gotta determine the center of that. Easiest way I found is I have this calculator. It's called iFraction calculator. You can get it on your iPhone. 5 3/4 divided by 2 equals 2 7/8. Okay, so this is 2 7/8. I did it here, and my center point is 3 3/8. Okay, so now that we know our center this way and our center this way, we can now set this up. So then what I'm going to do is the first thing I'm going to do is set this. So now what I'm doing is I'm lining up this hole with that, and then I'm going to tighten this down. Okay, so that'll be my center. So it's centered this way. To make sure it's centered up and down, I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna line this up with that line. And by eye is good enough. So if I hold this right there and I drill my hole here and drill my hole here. And now we take our screws with these handles. there's something to consider here. These are actually gonna bump into the other door. All right, so we don't want that to happen. So I have a solution for that. That's the next step. We need to add a bumper on the inside to keep these from hitting. So the solution is actually real simple. You just get yourself a door stop, but instead of mounting it on the floor, we're gonna mount it on the door. Now, before we install the bumper, we actually need to check our reveal, and we're gonna adjust the doors first, okay? So if you see here, there's a little gap up here, all right? And it doesn't hit down there. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna use these to adjust it, all right? I lift up the door just a little bit, 2 clicks. I keep checking my reveal. I like that one. Now that our reveals are perfect on both sides, now we can install the bumper. Oh yeah, so that's the end of the video. So we installed that little bumper in the back here, and that basically keeps this door from hitting that down there, all right? So you don't blow this off. But other than that, we're looking pretty good. This is a video that's part of a bigger series. We basically have redone this entire first floor, starting with the kitchen, moving out to the foyer. We are finishing some other things in this foyer. We put lights on the wall. We're building a custom bench down here and putting some lights up there. I'll post some videos up here that are like this video, all right? But other than that, I'm Mike, Family DIY TV. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and I'm out. Why is it not turning off?